This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details. And
boom!
Common man, no show prep, no solid plan. Spins a yarn, begins a tale. The esoteric approach won't fail. Tune in, it's time for Common Man. Common man, charms the housewives like no one can. What'd you shoot? Where'd we play? Non-stop nonsense on deck today. Tune in, it's time for Common Man.
Why should anybody aspire to be a common man, an average man? Do you realize what it means to be average? That means you're the best of the lousiest, and the lousiest of the best. Now, if we demand more and more for producing less and less, while the have-not nations encourage and inspire and indeed require hard work and maximum effort, if we deify the common men while they encourage and reward the uncommon ones, well, the end result of such a lopsided race as that is too obvious to require elaboration.
I mean, it's like, hello?
Mark, they can't pitch. They can't hit. What is with? I mean, come on.
Welcome back to the spotlight, young man.
You know, sometimes when you practice, you'll set up chairs. You know, when you run through chairs just to show zones and stuff. The Viking defense looks like it's chairs. All the defensive backs covering are just approaches today for the Minnesota Vikings.
NFL's nothing but a racket. Rising up, take to the top. Got a passion for glory. See the distance, now I'm back on my feet. And his man and his will to strive. It's the eye of the tiger, it's the thrill of fight. Rising up to the challenge, morale. And the rest of the world is the pay and the fight. Rising up to the shore with the eye of the tiger. Now what do you think? Raising it back.
Oh my gosh, above average.
Yeah, I always love that one.
What are you doing?
And that's ridiculous.
We can't start winning until we stop losing.
Cam Dantzler, what are you doing?
Let's go.
That was probably Zimmer being Zimmer.
I've seen enough out of Cousins, Paul. Put him on ice.
I'm going to say something controversial here.
That's interesting.
How you like me now? How you like me now?
He's the clown from Brown. He's the fourth in the North.
Denies it.
This is the common man, Dan Cole.
Hey, greetings, good afternoon, and ack-ack-a-dack, and give the ball a whack. And welcome back, Tennessee. Little welcome back-kata.
Welcome back
to a place that really hasn't changed at all. Nothing's different. Maybe you were thinking, I get back, I'll be refreshed. Maybe Kamala have, change things up a little bit. Maybe, came in and, do a little something different. Maybe freshen it up. Nope. Never went that way. Sorry. But you know what? There's a comfortable. There's something comfortable about the same old, knowing where you've been, where you're going, where you're at.
Brian Dunsing.
Yeah, and very, very much so. As Mark Rosen would say, you were gone for, 8 days, 9 days on vacation?
If you include, it was probably like an 11-day vacation, if you're including the weekends, yeah.
Right. And
in terms of days missed on the program, I think it was 8.
And then what did you, so where did your travels take you? Do you want to get into it at all? Or?
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
You went to Los Angeles and then to the island.
So last Wednesday we flew to L.A., and we decided to, it wasn't like a direct flight anyway. Originally we were going to go to Seattle. Then we said, well, let's just go to L.A. instead and go to Disneyland for a day and a half. So that's what we did. We flew into L.A. Wednesday, got there noonish, got in the hotel, and then went to California Adventure, and then did Disneyland the next day, and then we flew to Hawaii early last Friday morning.
Okay. How was the Disney thing?
Disneyland?
Disneyland.
Well, because technically in Hawaii, we stayed at the Disney resort. So it was all Disney all the time with us.
Okay.
We stayed at Aulani in Hawaii. But yeah, Disneyland, I mean, we went there like 2 years ago. And at that time, Ingrid was, almost 3 years old. She couldn't go on any rides.
Okay, right.
Had to push her around in the stroller everywhere. So at least now, she just turned 5 2 days ago. So happy birthday to the baby girl. Yeah.
5 years.
She's a 5-year-old now. But she's now tall enough where she can go on a lot of the rides. So that was fun to get her involved and see how excited she got to be on the rides. She's the most fearless of the bunch, I think.
Really? I've got to. This is probably a sad state on my fatherhood, but I was so happy my kids weren't into the Disney thing, because the last thing I wanted to do was go to Disney World, Disneyland, Disney this, Disney that. Just didn't do much for me, and they weren't into it, and I didn't push it on them either, so that was a good thing.
Well, and going during spring break time, obviously not everyone's spring break is the exact week, but there's a lot of, throughout the country, there's a lot of people in spring break. It's very busy there.
Your first time go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would recommend, we're already in the looks for Disney World, because we have not taken the kids to Disney World yet, but I think we're not going to do the spring break time anymore. Okay. We might do MEA weekend.
Let me ask you another question. First time to the Hawaiian Islands?
First time ever. For all of us.
Are the pineapples better there? Did you check the pineapples to see if they were better?
I know this doesn't surprise you, but I've always thought pineapples are yucky.
Right.
So I wouldn't know if they're better there or not.
What did you think of the Hawaiian Islands? Everything you thought it would be and then some?
Well, we only went to Oahu.
The big island.
So we flew into Honolulu, and then the Disney resort is like a 25-minute drive west of Honolulu. So actually that area of Oahu is not that great looking.
Right.
I mean, once you're at the resort and you're at the beach, it's great. But that's kind of I was like kind of disappointed actually on the drive there. I'm like, wow, this isn't as exciting as I thought it would be. Once you start driving to the North Shore, we did a couple different day trips where we went off away from the resort, and it's beautiful elsewhere. But we only went to one of how many ever islands there are out there.
Right. I think there's 7 or 8, I think. Let me ask you one last question. This is the most important one.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to stick a T in the ground at Kapalua or anywhere like that?
So at the Disney resort, they do have kind of like a kids club thing every once in a while where you can drop the kids off for a couple hours. We had one day where, typically sometimes they're only gone for like an hour and a half, but for that specific day, they were gone 3 hours. We didn't have them for 3 hours. My wife had booked a spa day. So I'm sitting there with I don't know what to do. Like, there's not really a lot for just me to go do on my own here.
So you stayed in the room and watched Oprah? No.
So my two options were, I was actually considering just going to the fitness center area. I'm like, I haven't worked out in who knows how long.
We can tell.
But I could try to. I contemplated doing that. I'm like, well, then I'm going to be sore for the next 2 days. I don't want to be deadly sore on vacation. So I ended up
hitting a bucket of balls.
Yeah, I went to hit a bucket of balls. I couldn't play a full round because I would have had the time in.
Yeah,
but out of everything there is very expensive. Obviously, the best rate you can get is a bucket of balls and rental clubs for just the driving range at the golf course across the street. It was like $36 to rent the clubs and the clubs were actually solid. So yeah, I went and hit a bucket of balls and was on the putting green for a while, practicing some chipping.
And
I wanted to get on the course at that point, but just never really had the time.
How did the ball striking go?
It was a struggle.
It was a struggle?
Well, I mean, I haven't played since July. I have, I've hit up the Braemar.
Wait a minute. Since July?
Yeah.
I pity you, man. It's just really sad.
Yeah, sad, really.
It is kind of sad, really.
I have hit up the Braemar Golf Dome a couple times over the last couple months. But it's just different when it's not your clubs, and just being outdoors is there's something different about that than the same old structured at the same bay in a golf dome all the time.
Yeah, well, it
was a bit of a struggle. Well, the biggest struggle was the putting. I think their greens were slower there. I get why the pros like the faster greens because I felt like it was very slow there.
Yeah. While you were gone, I got nominated for a preposterous statement. And I said that I putt better than 50% of the guys on the PGA Tour.
Oh, that was before I
was
left.
That before?
Oh, yeah.
And then the best part was Lavelle nominated me with a text for PST. And I said, you're right, that was preposterous. It's 60%. Of course, on Friday, it dropped back to about only better than 25% of the PGA Tour players. But I did play well. If you want to spin the wheel of topic, but it was a tidy little 79. I don't know when we're going to get out again.
It doesn't look good.
Old man Winter does not want to leave. Old man Winter is kicking and screaming as Mother Nature tries to push him out the door. Well, I'm glad you're back. I mean, I'm
glad to be back.
I had to deal with Abbott for a show. That was disastrous. We were at each other's throats.
Just looking over your shoulder the entire show.
Correct. Brett Blakemore. Micromanaging. Brett Blakemore was in. He put together a really nice montage for the Twins opener. The montage was better than the Twins' performance. And then I tried to get Zacho going about, look, he blew out a wheel and he lost his edge on the Gopher game in which we got called for a penalty. But it's good to have you back. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Controversial Vikings news on the other side of the break here on the Common Man program on the Fan.
Chime in on what's happening with your favorite KFAN program. Make your voice heard on the Brad Sean Bryan text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard message and data rates apply.
Couple 13-14 pass here on the Common Man program. I'm Common. He is 10 to be. Time for Peak at the Poiple, brought to you by Affordable Electric. They have a great opportunity if you're a journeyman electrician. They're looking to hire today. It's a full-time job, competitive wages. Affordable Electric provides health insurance, a simple plan with a 3% match from Affordable, work truck bonuses, and the ability to earn commissions. Don't delay. Apply today. Visit affordable-electric.com. Affordable-electric.com. And remember, Affordable Electric is shockingly affordable. There's really not much going on in Purple Land at Tennessee other than,
there actually is a decent amount I was going to just tell you.
Oh.
Just because Kevin O'Connell spoke today.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, because they're having like the general managers meetings and the coaches
right.
were all there, and there's going to be rule changes that are going to be voted on tomorrow. So I can give you some Kevin Seifert tweets if you want.
Oh, sure. Hell yeah.
Well, one, he said the Vikings and Patriots are indeed hoping to finalize a series of joint practices during training camp this summer. In addition, the Vikings and Rams are discussing the possibility as well. The Vikings would host both teams at the TCO Performance Center if it all works out. Obviously, Kevin O'Connell was asked about J.J. McCarthy today. Here's what Seifert tweeted. Kevin O'Connell spoke to local reporters today for about 15 minutes, mostly about Vikings QBs. He acknowledged his conversations with Aaron Rodgers and insisted they were not related to any concern he might have about J.J. McCarthy. O'Connell, quote, "You're constantly evaluating all the opportunities that may be out there, and certainly that was one that I found to be interesting just because it speaks to what our place has kind of turned into for quarterbacks. But at the same time, we've had a quarterback plan in place with J.J. McCarthy and really like where he's at in that journey right now and looking forward to getting the offseason program going with him."
That doesn't really, there's nothing definitive that, because a lot of people thought, well, first of all, there were people that were denying there was ever a conversation that took place. And we found out it did take place when Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah last week did a news conference that we aired on this radio station, said they did have conversations. And what was interesting to be was they asked if Kwesi was in on that conversation. He said no. He goes, we kind of go with if you know somebody really well. And so, KOC knows Aaron, so he did the conversation, which really, I think, just confirms to me what the rumors that I'd heard. I don't know if you heard the same thing. I think we talked about this. Part of the extension for KOC was he was going to get a bit more say in things around the place. And so I think that was more like, I'll handle this, Kwesi. I'll talk to the quarterback here. And by saying, that we have a plan in place and this and that and the other thing, there's nothing there that leads me to believe that they still wouldn't consider bringing Aaron Rodgers in. Your thoughts?
I think the door is not shut on him. I think they've made that pretty obvious. So there has to be a couple reasons why the door has not been shut. One, because it's pretty obvious now, like this Rodgers thing is going to play out for a while, right?
Yeah,
there's only one suitor. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers that we know of, right? The Giants have gone a different direction. So it's either the Steelers or Vikings. And the fact that this is dragging out, Aaron finally went to the facility of Pittsburgh, met with them. Apparently he was working out with DK Metcalf. That's been the latest reporting. But I think there's two reasons why this could drag out for the Vikings. One, isn't there like a date, like a month from now, that they're waiting to pass by so it doesn't affect any of their comp picks? Because there's been rumors of like Asante Samuel, he's going to sign here, but they're going to wait a month because they have to do it after that date so that they don't lose any of their compensatory picks.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you, because I suggested the same thing because that's what I heard. But then some people tried to tell me, and this is where I'm not paying as close attention to the National Football League as I once did, but that because Rodgers is a free agent and been released, there is no compensatory pick punishment. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what a couple of people tried to tell me. See what I'm saying? Because it's like if I thought the compensatory pick was strictly due to if you grabbed a guy via free agency. So in other words, Aaron's a free agent. Yeah. He's talking to other teams. You sign him. Well, then that team that lost him gets some compensation. He's not a free agent. He's been released by the Jets.
Well, he's a free agent because he's been released.
Right. So
he's a free agent right now.
Right, but the team released him. It wasn't like he's still.
Yes, but the Vikings, they're supposed to get a compensatory pick, for Cousins, right? But even for next year, they're in line to get a compensatory pick for Sam Darnold. But that would then be negated if you signed a quarterback.
I see. Okay.
Of equal measure in terms of contract. The other part of this is, do they just want more of a look at J.J. McCarthy? And you get into mini camps and you get into OTAs and you see what you got with them and then go, well, maybe he's not as close as we imagined, or maybe not as much of a win now as we'd like, because he is still young. He's 21 years old and hasn't played a snap in a regular season game. That maybe they just want to get a little bit of a look at him and go, all right, well, if Rodgers is still available, let's go that route, right? I mean, Brett Favre wasn't signed here until August.
Right.
When he came here for some unfinished business.
I think my prediction is Rodgers will be the starting quarterback for the Vikings in 2025. And
above average.
I'll go with the compensatory pick, Dick, because that's what I originally thought, and I'm going to. You've convinced me that's the issue. The thing is,
now I am not a capologist expert, just for the record.
But I'm going to go with that. But here to me is why it makes sense from KOC's standpoint, from the Vikings just in general. There were a couple of people, as we've been talking about this over the past couple of weeks, that have suggested, well, boy, what kind of a message you're sending to McCarthy? I don't care the message you're sending to McCarthy. He's got no pull. He's got nothing to say about it. You go to him and you say, kid, we got an opportunity to bring a Hall of Famer here, a first ballot Hall of Famer, 4-time MVP. We got a lot of the pieces in place. We're going to give it a whirl for 1 year. You're going to get to watch and work under Aaron Rodgers. And that's the decision we've made. And I don't see, I know the negatives or the drawbacks would be if he continues to be more of a distraction, more of a hindrance than a help. Well, yeah, and Rodgers can do that. But I also believe at this point, he knows his days in the league are numbered. His options are numbered. His days are numbered. His options are numbered. And this is the best place for him to go. So I think he would be a bit more cooperative here. And if McCarthy sits on the bench for another year, hell, the kid's 22 years old. So he sits on the bench another year. Jordan Love sat on the bench for 3 years? Rodgers sat on the bench for 3 years. You don't have to immediately put the kid in. He's got nothing to say about it. He's got no leverage, zero leverage. You don't worry about feelings in the National Football League. You worry about winning games. And if Rodgers comes, you bring him to camp. Part of it, too, is Rodgers. I think they could already be – it's already a done deal, a wink-wink deal, because Rodgers just doesn't want to do OTAs and mini camps. and KOC says, I understand that, and you have enough grid cred where we're not going to require that of you, but we don't want to say that. So then people go, well, look at, he's not all in with the club, blah, 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 blah. So he comes to training camp. If let's say the first 4 or 5 weeks, he's awful. All right, well, hey, it was a nice try. You're on the bench, and we're going to the kid anyway. So to me, that's, and you do hope to catch lightning in a bottle. You do look at the Favre. Look what Stafford did when he went to the Rams. You look at veteran quarterback, comes into a place, and you give him the opportunity. To me, it's a no-brainer. And again, I think you realize as well as I do. I think Rodgers has got a lot of a clown to him, but you're trying to win football games and win championships. I think they're going to sign him. What do you think?
I feel like the longer this goes, unless it is him just trying to get out of OTAs, the longer this goes, I think it's more than likely goes to purple.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
Why else would he sign with Pittsburgh by now? It doesn't make any sense. Other than your other point of he's just trying to avoid all the offseason stuff, which is very possible with him.
Very much so. Let's take a break. Peek at the Purple brought to you by Affordable Electric. Looking for a journeyman electrician? If you'd like to apply, go to affordable-electric.com. Remember, they're your old home specialists, too, so they can do rewiring and give your house an entire inspection, safety inspection, and then tell you what you might need to do, if anything. That's affordable-electric.com. I got some pushback on Minnesota being the state of hockey, Tennessee. I did some research, and I want to see what you think about it. We'll do that other side of the break here on the Common Man program on the Fan.
Fan.
Join Moss and Miller Lite at Jimmy's in Venice Heights this Thursday from 5 to 7. Stop by for your final shot to register for a chance to win a spot in the Vikings Foundation Golf Tournament. Get the full details now at KFAN.com. Keyword golf.
Tennessee, you're familiar with Gronk AI, right?
Of course.
Gronk AI is X's AI machine. So I sent it a simple question. If any NFL team signed Aaron Rodgers, would the Jets receive compensatory draft picks? Says the New York Jets would not receive compensatory draft picks if another NFL team signed Aaron Rodgers as a free agent, assuming he was released by the Jets prior to signing elsewhere. In NFL's compensatory pick formula, picks are awarded to teams that lose more or better compensatory free agents than they acquire in a given offseason. However, players who are released by the previous team do not qualify as CFAs under the system. Only unrestricted free agents who complete their contracts and then sign with a new team during their free agency period count toward the formula. There are 2 other paragraphs, but that
makes sense.
But anyways, that's the situation as I see it.
So then the reasons for the delay would be A, Purple want to see what they have in JJ and offseason stuff, see how the injuries rehabbed over a couple months, or B, Rodgers doesn't want to do any of the offseason stuff.
I think
But if he's going to do a new team with a new system, you probably should get him in here.
I would think, but I think it's the latter. Because I don't think I just don't think the Rodgers thing would be based on, this is my opinion, it would not be based on do we think McCarthy's ready or not. McCarthy's going to go through growing pains one way. If health-wise he isn't ready, obviously they have to have somebody start, no matter who that might be. But even if he's 100% healthy, ready to go, do they think he's Jaden Daniels like, where he's going to come in there the first year and he's going to be brilliant? Or is he going to be a guy that struggles a little bit? And, they've invested a lot of money in some elderly players. Both those defensive guys. Is it Hargrave and what's the other guy's name? The two defensive linemen that they signed, the inside pass rusher guys.
The guy from Washington.
Both these guys,
Jonathan Allen.
Yeah, both of these guys are They're a little long in the tooth. They're coming off injuries. They're paying him a boatload of money. Do I remember this correctly? Were the Vikings one of the oldest teams in the league last year? Did they get any younger? I think they got older is what they did. So there's a clock.
Still got Harrison Smith out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's like a clock ticking here a little bit where it's like, because you invested in those defensive players, not because you think they're going to be here another 5 or 10 years. You got them because you think you're a competitive team right now that can make a push. Otherwise, you don't go in that direction, I don't think. And so if you're willing to say, and I know the coach is quarterback whisperer guy, and maybe he feels like he can coach McCarthy up enough that he can be Jaden Daniels like in his first year starting. But man, when you got that opportunity, regardless if it was Rodgers or a Stafford or any of those veteran quarterbacks that have won before, you sometimes think, look what Favre did back in 2009. So I do it myself. And I know you and I've talked about this from a media standpoint as a sports talk show host. It's a no-brainer. But and look, if it doesn't work out, if he isn't any good, you'll know early. First few weeks of the season, you'll go, I guess we made a mistake there. So you put him on the bench and you go with plan B, and that's McCarthy. So what's that? And McCarthy's probably not going to come out of the gate and go 5-0 anyways. I don't think he's got any better chance to succeed than Rodgers does, is what I'm trying to say. So, but we'll see. Obviously we have to let it play out. Here's what somebody sent me, Tenneby. It says, Common, I put this information together about a week ago after hearing PA talk about the state of hockey and all the prestigious Minnesota universities in D1. I personally cringe every time I hear state of hockey catchphrase, and I dove into the numbers to see if his claim pans out. The numbers aren't good for the Minnesota Homers.
Really?
Most NCAA national championships by state. Michigan's got 19. Colorado has 12. Massachusetts has 12. Minnesota's got 8. If these numbers are correct. No!
Can I respond to that before you move on?
Yeah, sure.
Minnesota hasn't always had, and they now have 6 Division I teams.
Okay.
For the longest time, we had 2. We said Minnesota and UMD. And then in the 90s, St. Cloud State came around, and then Minnesota State Mankato, whenever was that? Maybe early 2000s, Bemidji State, and now you have St. Thomas. So some of that, especially with the Michigan teams, is just because they had more quantity of teams that had a chance to win it. But go ahead.
Most Stanley Cups by state. Michigan, 11. New York, 8. Pennsylvania, 7.
Going off their professional team.
Illinois, 6. Massachusetts, 6. Florida, 4. California, Colorado, New Jersey, 3. 5 other states with 1. Minnesota, the state of hockey, 0 Stanley Cup championships. Now, I know we only go back to 1967, but that's still a lot of years. 0 Stanley Cups.
Those aren't all Minnesota players, but
no.
Point taken.
Top 5 states total between NCAA and NHL championships. Michigan, 30. Massachusetts, 18. Colorado, 50. New York, 13. Minnesota, North Dakota are tied with 8. End the madness, Common. Convince PA and all the other homers like Zacco that we're not the state of hockey. That title clearly belongs to Michigan. Cleve, the state of hockey, is a fraud guy. Go Bulldogs. Oh, that's what it is. He's a Bulldogs fan. Tenneby, do you think that we can continue to stake claim to the state of hockey, or do you think maybe it's time for us?
I think the state of hockey slogan goes a little bit farther past than just NHL franchises and our Division I college.
And part of it is state of mind. It's the state of mind, and we do.
In terms of which state produces the most Division I hockey players and professional hockey players on both the men's and women's side,
it's not even close.
It's Minnesota.
Right?
It's the state of hockey.
What surrounds the state?
A big blue line.
Yeah. Where'd you cut your teeth?
In the penalty box.
Who reffed?
Mother.
What more do you need to know? It says say so in the song. How'd your brackets? You know what? I was the whole show today, well, not the whole show, but I was going to open with what a great NCAA college basketball mind I have. I needed one more result, and I would have been the front runner to win the KFAN bracket challenge.
You've got to be kidding me.
Dylan puts it all together, so it's people here at the radio station, friends of his, friends of mine, friends of yours, whoever wants to be. There are literally hundreds of people that have filled out a bracket. I needed Michigan State to win yesterday, and I knew that was a tall task. Auburn's really good. Had Michigan State won Tennessee, all I needed was Houston to beat Florida and that's saying a lot. I mean, Houston would have to get by Duke. Florida would have had to have got past Michigan State, which I think they would have had Michigan State won. And then I needed a Houston victory. The money was mine. I still have a chance on my other bracket. Remember, to not win it, but to finish in the money. It pays first, second, and third. Again, a number of different things have to happen. But I told you, I always put a bracket together in which I select all the higher seeds to win so that when the Final Four rolls around, all 4 number 1 seeds are in the Final Four. And that's exactly what has happened. But I think some other people went by the same strategy as well. I have Auburn, Florida, Duke, and Houston. I have Auburn beating Duke in the championship. I think that can still finish in the money, but that's how close I was. And why did I take Michigan State? Why? Because I was being a Big Ten homer. Yep. What I was doing. Plus, Jiggy Traw, Trey Holloman, who played for Cretin-Durham Hall, was on that team, and so I was kind of pulling for Cretin. Let's just say Holloman didn't have a very good game yesterday. I think he was 0 for 10 from the field, including 0 for 5 from three-point. They can't shoot a three-point shot. I had no idea. I probably should have did more research. Well, of course, I don't research anything, right? But
and that's
apparently
also,
Michigan State is the worst. They're dead last in three-point shooting in the Big Ten. They can't make a three-pointer. That's their biggest problem. And they made some three-pointers late to make the game look closer than it was. I think they lost by 6? It really never felt like a 6-point game ever. It was always they had no answer for the was it Broom, the guy inside? They just had no for the two. They were two.
I was going to say
big men. They had no chance.
I have very little. I've seen very little of the NCAA tournament just because I was on vacation the entire time. But I did see a bit of the Auburn-Michigan State game yesterday. And you talk about Michigan State not being able to shoot threes. If you're playing Auburn, you got to shoot threes because their interior with those two big men, including that guy you're talking about, is as good as any team in the country.
That's correct.
Like you're not going to be able to beat them just trying to score 2 points at a time.
That is correct. And it was that 17-0 run. That's even like the earlier game, Tennessee against Houston. Tennessee was 0 for forever, 0 for 11 or more to start out the game. Houston built up a 15, 20-point lead, and Tennessee could never get back in the game. And I never felt like Michigan State was going to get back into it either. So now it's just down.
Until that Broom guy got hurt in the second half. Like, well, if he's out for a while, maybe they got a shot, and then he came back on the.
He came in. They were calling it a Willis Reed moment. I wouldn't get too carried away with that, but it did look ugly. Both his ankle, his knee looked like it buckled bad, and his elbow, and you could tell the elbow was bothering him. Now the doc said there's no problem with it. It's not a serious injury, it's just a painful one. So apparently he should be back by Saturday for the Final Four, but that remains to be seen or not. How did your brackets? You weren't even close.
I didn't do a bracket.
Oh, you didn't?
Like I said, we left Wednesday before the tournament started, and even a couple days before that, we were so bonkers with trying to get everything packed for the entire family. I just never had time to fill out a bracket.
Rosen,
I should have gone with just pick the favorite in every game. Yeah, I don't have time to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I did.
would have been in good shape.
You would have been right where I am, because that's exactly what I did on number 3. I had all the favorites, all the number 1 seeds. The only problem was St. John's killed me. St. John's is what did me in, because I had St. John's getting to the Elite 8 because they were number 2 seed. They didn't even come close, so I lost it over on that side of the bracket. Then I made the mistake of I had Texas Tech losing to St. John's. Had I had Texas Tech beating St. John's, I think I'm in a good spot, but I'm not. So there we go.
I saw a little bit of the Houston-Tennessee game on the plane. They were out of it immediately. And just never looked like they had a chance.
They were done.
Houston's a 3-and-D type of team.
They're a 3-and-D. That's right.
Play really good defense and can shoot the three.
Well, and that's why.
And Tennessee tried nothing but three-pointers.
Defense
hit on any.
Defense wins championships, and that's why Houston and Auburn are where they are, because they both play really good defense. So does Duke too. Duke's a pretty good defensive club as well. So, there are other people that tend to be that are. First of all, there's text. So you saw the standings for the bracket challenge, or a buddy of yours did? Actually, I had to actually text Dylan to ask him where I am. I do the old two. I go, I must be in first place right now, right? I always give him that. And so, no, a buddy of mine did check, but it was the guy that put the bracket together. I wouldn't even know how to find the bracket.
I mean, it's literally been emailed to you. But.
Yeah, correct. State of hockey. Which other states televise their high school hockey tournament? There's that. I don't know if any others do. We do.
And they ain't getting the same attendance we're getting for ours, I can tell you that.
Most NHL players per state. Minnesota has 51 players. 51 players in the National Hockey League.
It's pretty good.
By the way, speaking of the National Hockey League, I read Russo's piece. Was either from yesterday or today in The Athletic. Are you familiar with The Athletic?
The what?
Say sports online collection of stories from some of the best writers all over the country, covering all the major sports, all the minor sports, and all the medium sports in between. Russo, based out of Minneapolis, covers the Wild. Apparently, Eck is skating, and so is Kaprizov, but that does not mean that either is immediate, especially Kaprizov isn't expected to come back. Did I see where he's traveling with the club?
They're both going to go with the club, but
part of the reason is Kaprizov's doctor is out there on the East Coast, and so it's more for a checkup than anything else. So they've been skating, but they haven't been involved in any kind of contact drills. Though if I read it correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed to Russo seemed to indicate that Kaprizov should be back before the regular season ends, right?
Yes,
that's
but
the way I read it.
He's already out 3 games.
Right.
We already know he's out 3, and there's only 8 games left. So I guess optimally at this point, he's going to play in the final 5, which is better than not playing in the playoffs at all. But it's also what's the status of his health. But even if he's healthy, is how much rust is he going to have him when you get into the playoffs and speed picks up and physicality picks up and you're getting all the attention because your line mates are struggling to score. So it's better to have him skating than not, but I'm still not super optimistic as to how this season is going to finish. I mean, they are just kind of hanging on by a thread at this point.
Get the reinforcements. Getting Eriksson Ek and Brodin is back, right?
Brodin's back. Everyone's back except for those 2.
With Ek and Kaprizov, if they come back, I don't know if you've ever thought of it this way, but that's almost like making a trade. Because we've been without both of them, especially Kaprizov. He's been missing since January, right? When he played those, he was out for a long time. Then he played 3 games and was out again.
I was going to say, he started, his first got hurt was in mid-December.
Right.
And then, he missed like a month, came back for 3 games, and then, so you basically haven't had him for...
Correct.
And up until that point, he was putting up as good of numbers as anybody in the National Hockey League. And it's just a trickle-down effect with those 2 out of the lineup. Because now everyone's talking about, man, Marco Rossi's slumping. Well, yeah, Marco Rossi is now your number 1 center, getting all the attention from the other team without a Kaprizov to take any attention away from him. So Marco Rossi is probably a quality number 2 center at this stage of his career. He's not a guy who can drive the line on your top line. But if you have Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek in the lineup, then that now slots him properly where he can have more success.
Ovi's within 5 of breaking Gretzky's record.
Yeah.
Think he'll
didn't score against the Wild.
Do you think he'll do it before the end of the season? It's a lot of goals, right? How many games do they have left?
I don't know how many. I mean, the Wild have 8, but
So they're roughly
8 to 10 games.
Yeah, 8 to 10 games, 7, 8, 9, 10 games. Chances probably aren't real good, right?
If anyone can score, yeah. I mean, 5 and 10 is definitely a number he can reach.
Let me ask you a question.
They've got 9 games left.
Okay. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
They call him the Great One, Gretzky, right?
Yeah.
If Ovi breaks that record, I don't think anybody will call him the greatest of all time, but where does he rank on that list?
In terms of greatest players of all time?
Yeah.
Ovechkin's an interesting one. Right? Because, one, I don't think anyone ever thought a Gretzky record would be broken.
Right.
So the fact that he's reached it, and he's also done it during a time in which it's been harder to score than it was during Gretzky's time.
Why is that?
Goaltender, all the players are bigger and stronger, so they take up more ice. They have longer reach. Their sticks are longer. You're going up against goaltenders that have equipment. All the goalies now, you got to be like my height or bigger mostly to be a goalie now. You got to be 6'2", 6'3", 6'4".
Right.
I mean, now I get it. There's every once in a while you see an Alex Stalock size, but for the most part, your 5'10", 5'11" goalies don't exist anymore. So the goalies are all bigger. They all have bigger equipment. They take up more net. They're better trained. They play a different style because as long as you have a certain size to you, it's more about pushing off your edges than the stand-up goalie. So there's less net to shoot at. Now, you could argue Ovechkin's playing with a different technology of stick as well than Wayne Gretzky was.
Okay.
But, I mean, just goals per game across the league is not what it was during Gretzky's time and for most of the 80s and early 90s. So you could argue that's even more impressive that Ovechkin is about to top him.
You'd have to remind me because I should probably really be honest with the listeners. I've never paid attention to the National Hockey League, not just lately. Just I've never, except back in the days when it was the original 6 and the North Stars first came to town when I was a kid. I watched them a little bit. Did Gretzky overall have better teammates than Ovechkin did, or not necessarily? I mean, you probably have to look at every roster, but
I would say yes, but I would also say
he made them better.
He makes players better,
okay.
Right? There was a while in Chicago. Remember Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews?
Yes.
Remember those two?
Very much so.
They had a stretch in Chicago where those two were making so much against the salary cap that players would play with them, would have very good years. Chicago would just go, well, we can't afford to re-sign you anymore because we were too far up against salary cap. Those players would go elsewhere and they never put up the stats they did with. And then new guys would come in and play with Kane and Toews and put up numbers again because I think you're seeing that with the Wild right now, right? If you have Kirill Kaprizov on your line, that's going to make you look a lot better and you're going to score more points than when he's not on the lineup. So, Mark Messier is a Hall of Famer. I don't know. I'm trying to think who Ovechkin played with. Nicholas Backstrom. I always forget who else he played with. Not our Nicholas Backstrom, a different Nicholas Backstrom.
I was going to do the bit about what a great. No one's ever has a goalie ever has a skater ever gone a goalie or back and forth.
So Gretzky had much more team success. He played on better teams. Ovechkin just won the one Stanley Cup, and that's all he's ever done. He's had a lot of regular season successful teams, but in terms of playoffs, Gretzky has far surpassed him. Was Gretzky playing with better players? Probably, yes. I also think Gretzky was the best playmaker of all time in terms of making his line mates look better as well.
Well, he has
more assists than anybody else has points.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So you can't replace the Great One with Ovi. Though I've made the argument, I always thought Gordie Howe was the best ever, but I thought Nanny would stick with me on that. Louis, who, by the way, is in the Paddock now. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that.
Yeah.
Well-deserved.
Yeah, it is. Very well-deserved. Mm-hmm.
You didn't get in?
No, I didn't. I didn't make it. I don't even know if I was nominated. I think I've, where you have to get a certain percentage of the votes in order to stay on the ballot for the next year. I think that was it for me. I think I'm finally officially off. I can't get in until I get into that Pioneers, league, the really old people, and that'll be 50, 60 years after I'm gone.
A seniors division?
Yeah, so it'll be 50 or 60 years after I'm dead. It is when I'll probably finally get in, if I get in at all. So there you go. We'll get to the Twins eventually. My guess is you might even bring them up in 5-3.
Oh, of course.
It was just an awful start to the season against a pretty mediocre Cardinals club. Of course, they made them look like World Series contenders the way the Twins played. I'm sure we'll get to that, but 10B, what else do you got going in 5-3?
Well, that's exactly what I was going to bring up. I was going to say, I can't really give you the tease the best. I think Betty can.
Mark, they can't pitch. They can't hit. What is with? I mean, come on.